always seem to be confused when I contrast the politics of migration that are happening in South Africa with those that are happening in the United States.
Fighting flared between the nationalist Patriot Prayer Group and the anti-fascist organisation Antifa.
This is just one of several demonstrations in recent weeks targeting migrants in South Africa.
Anyone just wakes up in the morning and decides that they're having problems in their own country. Oh, let me look for greener pastures, and it's South Africa.
Now let me tell you a story about two neighbors. One of the neighbors built a wall out of fear, but the other, they opened their door from a point of understanding. At the end of this episode, I want you to have an introspective moment and tell me which one of these two neighbors that you are. People always seem to be confused when I contrast the politics of migration that are happening in South Africa with those that are happening in the United States. But my belief is that there is a jinx in the African matrix. And that jinx is motivated by American politics. And we can no longer ignore this point of a call. Ever since we started the podcast, I've been having conversations with people, and people have told me that they have actually called me out for presenting the social ills that are presented in the politics of migration, but not the solutions to these problems. So this episode is going to present a solution for xenophobia, or the politics of migration that actually characterizes African migration. But before we get into that, 2 years ago, on this very day, Africa Day, the 25th of May, we launched Africans on Africa podcast. Now, the point for us launching this podcast was that we were daring to have conversations that are borderless. And this year, in 2026, we still find ourselves in a space where these conversations not only remain relevant, but still continue to find meaning in the lives of Africans within the African continent. I'd like to say Happy Africa Day to everyone who identifies as an African, but also to everybody who celebrates Africanity. And to almost the 2,000 subscribers that we have on YouTube and over 1 million engagement points that we have on TikTok. I'd like to thank everyone who has taken time to watch the podcast, everyone who has engaged with us, and also everybody who has shared their feedback in the effort to make us grow as a podcast. And yes, even the criticism, because it is this criticism that makes us stop and think when complacency hits. But also, I'd like to take a moment before we start to thank our sponsors, because our sponsors are the people who have believed in us and the conversations that we are trying to build and initiate on the podcast. Now, let us actually get into the solution for xenophobia, or the politics of migration, according to the way that I theorize it. My solution for the politics of migration is quite simple. And the solution is this: we need to overcome the perceptions and live within the margins of reality. The ruling ideology globally that is currently dominating in terms of migration has shown us that perception trumps reality. See what I did there? People do not care about the reality when perceptions can create a reality that has a meaning for them, or that has a meaning to them. Facts do not matter when we can stereotype. Why validate a fact, or a fact, so to speak, that can be explained by a stereotype? And if a leader has said it, the perception becomes a reality that I am ready to fight for, that I'm ready to be mobilized by. Let me take you through some realities that are obvious and accessible, but very few of us actually engage with these realities, or even dared to overcome the realities as they are packaged. We don't even engage with this. As I go through each one of the realities, please ask yourself if this is a reality that has actually dawned on you as an individual, or on an individual basis. The first reality is that the jobs for 65 million people are not compromised by 3 million people. It's factually impossible for 3 million people to compromise jobs for 65 million people, even if all the 3 million people are actually employed. The perception, on the other hand, is that 3 million people are actually stealing jobs for 65 million people. Another reality is that migrants actually contribute to the South African economy more than they actually compromise the South African economy. Think of that and really pause there and try to really think of what I've said, right? But just in case this doesn't make sense, I want to present this clip that actually makes my point, or drives my point home.
Africans. Who is benefiting more, South Africa and Zimbabwe? Oh, nice question. It's Zimbabweans. Why? Zimbabweans are benefiting more than South Africans. How? They come to the country, they work. After working, they take everything home. They send the money home. No, it's South Africa which is benefiting more. Tell me more. South Africa is benefiting more economically. You know why? Why? Zimbabweans are sending their trucks to South Africa. Okay. They buy goods, industrial goods, food, many things, machines, tractors, cars, and send them to Zimbabwe. So South Africa is benefiting more economically, and Zimbabwe is just benefiting only individuals, only people. South Africa is benefiting the whole country, the government, and more things. So which means we are both benefiting? Yes, we are benefiting, but South Africa is benefiting more than Zimbabwe. We must work together as Africans, and you must tell your government like to open, big companies for you guys in Zimbabwe, so that we also come to Zimbabwe, and South African buy goods, So you also want to come to buy goods in Zimbabwe? When I love Zimbabwe, I want to go to Zimbabwe. So we are going to create jobs in Zimbabwe. I'm going to tell my government to create jobs so that you can also come and work and buy in Zimbabwe. Imagine me going shopping in Zimbabwe. I win. Yeah. What's that South Africa? Marie. Oh, the winner. Yes. Money. Danko.
In addition to this clip, research has consistently highlighted that migrants have a positive fiscal contribution and often associated with positive net impact on the national fiscus. Right? In short, migrants actually contribute more to the economy than they actually rob the economy, so to speak. Another reality that we don't think about or we don't dare to engage with is that migrants, if they leave South Africa, it is not going to solve the social ills that are currently marring the South African context. It is also not going to locate Black South Africans in a better social structure in South Africa. The social strata for Black people is not going to change because migrants have left. The social strata and the economy of South Africa will remain the same, specifically if we think of where Black people are located and how Black people are located at the very least. But what is important to think about, and the reality that is important to think about, is that the economy of South Africa as a whole might take a realistic dent as migrants leave. And this is a reality that I'm talking about. Another reality is that the poor person is not the problem that is economically disadvantaging the poor South African. Think of that for a second. The poor people are not the problem who are making poor South Africans poor. And to my own thinking, this script is very old. It is colonial and serves to detach South Africans from Africa, but also Africans from other Africans. The sooner we embrace our blackness, the sooner that we start the journey of seeing where the plot is coming from. And the sooner we stop fighting for nationalism, because this nationalism is void of a nation. What do I mean by this? We can't fight for documentation without land. We can't fight for documentation without resources. We can't fight for documentation without being able to define the economy. Those are the things and the concepts that are really important and realistically important to us. The narratives that we have seen in migration are not based in any statistics, but rather they are talking points of leaders of movements. And these leaders of movements actually focus on specific forms of migration, races, and in some cases, religious beliefs.
Hold your country. Hold your country. Tired now. No, but I'm going now. Why you can't finish? I'm going now.
Number nini? Ngiyabuza phela manje. Zalaba lokuthanda zala. Unizwileni ukuthi in Nigeria the government of Nigeria have.
I'm not from Nigeria, I speak English.
I'm speaking English.
Yeah, I'm from Malawi, I'm a visitor here.
Yes, and you have papers?
Yes, I got.
Where?
Are you a police?
I am.
Are you a police?
Oh,
Show me ID.
I'm telling you right now that we are here in Johannesburg and we said we're going to be here for a longest time, no crime to be committed, and we are as peaceful as we are. But the Nigerian government has declared we are against Hamban Katsere in my Ungamela Nigeria uthi uzonana Baloyi. Why you doing it in your own country? Why? We are tired and you must know it.
I want to buy things here.
Yes.
Something in those videos seems really sinister for me. Because what are the indicators of the said illegal foreigner? If you ask me, there's a few things that stand out there. I think the dress code, the religious dress code, is something that stands out, and also standing in front of a temple, right? But with all of these identifiers, so to speak, the Malawian guy is still misforeignered as a Nigerian, so to speak. So are they just all the same? The point that I'm trying to drive home here is that indicators of foreignhood are perceptions based on religious scripts, or based on racial scripts, even based on religious bigotry, and national identity markers that are not always affirmed by any sort of reality that we know. Now, I need us to take some time to actually seriously consider the dehumanization plot as it is presented in South Africa, and also in the US. Let us not forget that context as well. And my thinking within that is that these points are void of any rationale. They do not have any seriousness, and they do not have or hold any facts. But they become a reality because stereotypes and prejudices actually take shape, and they shape the reality that we have. And the dangerous part about stereotypes and prejudices is that they lay dormant, awaiting any form of validation. But most of all, they also rob us as Africans specifically from the requirement of deep diving and inquiring if the stereotype is actually true. You don't take time to inquire if it's true because to you it comes as a fact when it's actually not a fact. It's like saying women are bad drivers, or Nigerians are drug dealers, or Zulu people are violent. They all seem true, right? Only until we actually look into the facts and what these facts actually spell. The facts actually spell that women are better drivers than men. But the gender disparities in terms of driving have normalized men as the ideal form of a driver, but also a dominant driver. And therefore, because of this, we relate gender or being a man to being a good driver. And this is why a lot of men actually don't believe that they are not good drivers. Think of it. Most Nigerians are actually earning an honest living in South Africa. And Zulu people, well, that's another stereotype that we like to carry, right? The bulk of them are a peaceful nation and a peace-loving nation who have been defined through the prescripts of war and also portions of violence that we have seen or consumed in the media. But also, what is important to think about in terms of these stereotypes is that some of these narratives, or narratives that we have specifically if we think of the Zulu people, are narratives that are not written by Zulu people. I'll let you fill in the blank. What is happening here? We are dwelling in the lumber of our perceptions, and we are missing the reality every day, while those living in the reality are taking everything. And they are taking everything while we are fighting for nothing. Seriously, come to think of it. At least in my own opinion, there are 6 very dominant characteristics for xenophobia and the politics of migration around the world. And this is in the current form of xenophobia and the politics of migration. The first characteristic for me is that the politics of migration is extracted from colonialism. Now, seriously, let's think about this. Descendants of European migrants in the United States of America, they are protecting the United States of America from African and Asian migrants who built the country. Let's make this make sense. In South Africa, the frontline states, yes, go read about it, they are being rejected and chastised within the South African spaces using the same method that is fashioned by the colonialism. And it's not only a method, there are different types of methods, and these include borders, papers, black people not being able to have jobs in certain spaces, and a protection of poor whiteism. But also, one of the things that remains important is that black people still fight while white people still get richer. Black people are still killing generations while white people are investing in generations. I know what you're about to say. I'm stereotyping. Those stereotypes are a slippery slope. But I hope you get my point. The second characteristic that's dominant for me is that the politics of migration reduces the value of blackness or black people, and also the value of Africanness.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
The go home discourse is the one that troubles me the most. Because in the United States of America, it is pervaded by those who have nationality through documents and nationalism through the land. Do you get that? But also, specific to South Africa, the reality is different. as black people still do not own the bulk of the land in the country. So, apart from the documents, whose home is South Africa really? Because there are documents, but the land is still owned by other people. We remain trapped in the illusions of perceptions. The third characteristic for me is that in Africa, specific to Africa, the politics of migration have advanced to the stage where the value reduction of black people is performed or is done by black people. I always say this epitomizes the successful journey of what colonialism is. White people don't have to do anything. Black people are the ones who have to perform these acts. The fourth characteristic for me is that the politics of migration use the tropes of religion. So you cannot tell me you cannot do the politics of migration without tapping into religion. You cannot. Because the politics of migration is a thought child of white evangelical racism. And how it works is that it perceives whiteness as the owners of the land. I need us to think of this carefully. It perceives whiteness as the owners of land or whiteness as the ownership of land and does not see race, because it actually defines Christianness or Christians as the righteous ones and mobilizes European evangelical identities, specifically in the US, as having more rights and the forte of the US culture than those who are or who have departed from African or Asian countries. I had to stop and think about it for a while. But I also think you have just missed the point. Because if you really listen to the rhetoric, who should leave South Africa? Who belongs to South Africa? And who has assets and wealth that should not be touched in the South African context? I hope you take time to listen to that slowly, because it really needs to sink in and we really need to think about this. The fifth characteristic for me that is dominant in the politics of migration is against integration of black people and African people, right? It is not integration that it is against, but the integration of black people and also African people. There are very few places that you can go to in the world currently where you find Europeans and Americans being told to go home or being denied in terms of the space that you go to. This thought, it actually immediately is seen as radical or radicalized, as in the cases of when Idi Amin gave the Asians 90 days to leave Uganda, right?
I had a dream sent last night from God. He has instructed me to throw out all Asians from the country. Uganda must be for Ugandans only. The Asians were brought here by the colonialists to build railway. I give the Asians 90 days to pack up and go.
And another case that comes to mind is Robert Mugabe, who is still perceived to have chased away white people or Europeans from Zimbabwe. I don't mean to get into this, but look at how it ended. Very radicalized in terms of the political space, but also in terms of the consumption of the idea as well. The politics of migration serves the purpose of robbing communities of the value of integration. And it does this by creating a deception. And that deception is that there is unity in division. And they that have to be attacked are the enemies. But also it's doing this while it's shifting our focus and shifting our attention from the greater pie of the economy. Because we are not focusing on the greater pie of the economy when we're doing this. Divide and conquer was mastered through colonialism. And I think it's time that we get to learn this again. Right? Colonialism functioned through divide and conquer. And in its perfect form, the divided are the ones who kill each other. And they use this aspect of difference to chase each other away. But has anyone checked on what the designers of the systems are actually doing while we are busy killing each other and we are busy fighting? Please go and check. Tell me in the comments what's happening. Tell me in the comments what they are doing. The sixth characteristics of the politics of migration for me around the world and specifically in South Africa is that it has some traces of lynching. And this one is a very sad one. Not that any one of them are a happy one. But this is inherent in slavery and colonialism as well. Black people lynching black people, for me, epitomizes the house Negro or house slave that Malcolm X actually wrote about. Now, a house slave is the one who actually worked in the master's home. But often, this is the person or the slave who would be receiving better food, better clothing, and treatment from their masters, in comparison to the slave who is in the field. The house slave frequently adopted the master's interests, living near the master, but also being loyal to the master, and ill-treating the field slaves. Really think about it, right? And the way that they would ill-treat the field slaves is that they would be beating them up, and in some cases threatening them with lynching, right? But in the current moment, this lynching has become a reality. While that's sinking in, please click the like button, subscribe, and share the podcast. These are very little gestures that actually go a long way in giving the podcast a lot of mileage. As the symbolism of lynching and who actually performs the lynching sunk in now? I hope it has. Let me give you another example, just in case that hasn't sunk in. In colonial America, black people used to be vilified for their sexual prowess. And white women who engage or dare to marry black men were seen or positioned or told or narrated as prostitutes. It is almost as if they were perceived as the stealers of women, and their sexual energy was perceived as an erotic taint on white women, which is also debatable as well in terms of who actually researched their sexual prowess and see and saw this. So let me land this episode in this way. I am betting that there is a comment in the comment section which says something to the ends of foreigners must go, abahambe, or such a rhetoric. We receive a lot of these comments. But this is what I want to say with regards to these comments. I want to say this is a very toxic statement that is easy to produce, but also very lazy. It is lazy because it robs the brain of the opportunity to actually comprehend about the who has to go, the why that they have to go, and if it would really benefit the individual who is saying it to say this statement. It robs the person of any bottom line. If you make that comment, with all due respect, you can make that comment, but please answer these questions for me. And in addition to that, what I require from you if you make that comment is that show me the facts as well. Please do show us the fact. If not, then why don't you use this opportunity to actually engage for the betterment of the African people or of the African identities? Because another thing that we never think about, or another thing that we never talk about from these utterances, is the chaos that they actually create. We never think about the chaos that these statements create. But also in addition to that, they bring harms that we don't talk about or we don't think about. Even for black South Africans on their own, these utterances are bringing harms to other black South Africans. One of the things that's most important for me is that while we are saying all of these things, the other group of people is focusing on, you tell me what they are focusing on in the comment sections. My name is Ivan Munashe Katsere. I'm an African social psychologist, and this has been my analysis of the politics of migration in South Africa and the justification of why they can be contrasted to the politics of migration in the United States. And this has also been my solution to xenophobia or the politics of migration. Once we imbue our blackness and once we are comfortable with our blackness, I'm sure this is also a space where we put this behind us and start the journey of actually working together as one and building not only an identity, but also building an us that actually is focused on not being intimidated by anyone, but also integrating with everyone and starting the journey to build economies and not just building documents. Thank you for watching.